You are listening to These Are The Films, Episode 4. This time we're going to be talking about Moon. Hi everyone, welcome to These Are The Films, fortnightly podcast where we pick a film and have a little chat about it. My name is Crispin, I'm here with my friend Jim.
Hi. These are the films that we think are important, that have moved us in some way, changed the way we think or had some sort of impact. We think they're remarkable or that you ought to have seen them or would like to see them again. And it's not a list of the best of the cleverest films. They're not even necessarily good.
That's right. It works a bit like a book club, though. So at the end of every episode, we'll tell you about what film we're going to cover next time, and we invite you to watch that film and then listen to us talk about it in the following podcast. You don't have to have watched the film to listen to the podcast, but we may spoil it for you if you haven't. I mean, there will be spoilers. That's the point I'm trying to get across. There will be spoilers.
Yeah. Definitely spoilers.
We're not film buffs. We're not experts. We just really like films and we like talking about them. If you do too, then please join the conversation at our website, on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. All the details are at thesearethefilms.com. So, Moon.
Moon. In space, no one can see you, Moon.
Have you been saving that right up?
Yeah. I was hoping you, because I've already said it to you, I was hoping you'd have forgotten it so it would land again.
Love it. And it did. It absolutely did. Yeah. Right. Co-written and directed by Duncan Jones, who I imagine still is necessarily qualified by every time he's mentioned by his other name.
Zowie!
I was going to ask you how to pronounce it because I don't know, but it's Zowie.
I guess so.
Zowie Bowie.
I guess so.
Not Zoe Bowie.
A lot of people say David Bowie, but if it's David Bowie, then it's Zoe Bowie, and
it doesn't work, does it?
No, Zowie Bowie works. And is it Zowie Bowie?
Zowie Bowie.
So. It's not even that, is it? It's Duncan Jones.
Yeah,
it's his real name.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know that. I knew that. David Bowie had a son that he'd called Zowie, and that was all I knew. And then suddenly we're all grown-ups, and he's someone.
Yeah.
But he's called Duncan Jones, and I thought, how funny that he changed his name. You know, I thought he was like Bjork's son, who like isn't really into the fact that he's Bjork's son and is like really normal. And I mean, it might be different now, but last I heard of him, he went to school and liked maths. And so I thought he might just be like that, to go from Zowie Bowie to Duncan Jones. But it's because his name's Duncan Jones.
Yeah,
Duncan
that's it.
Zowie,
I assumed
Jones.
exactly the same thing. But yeah, turns out, no, real name Duncan Jones.
Yeah.
For the papers, though, it's Zowie Bowie.
Yeah.
So some other little facts. Made for about 5 mil and grossed just under 10. So not a screaming success, but nonetheless made money.
And a creeping cult classic.
Yeah,
No question about it.
Do you reckon? I mean, it's got really good ratings on IMDb, and
it's one of those ones that I don't know. I think people kind of chance upon it because I mean, Sam Rockwell's brilliant, right? So I think people chance to look through what movies he's done and see this. Oh, what's this Moon? And it's sci-fi. People give sci-fi a shot. You know, I think that's an interesting thing about the genre because, like in literature, if something's got a genre, then it's immediately probably not considered to be important. But as a result, people find it more accessible.
Do you have beef with literature people then, not thinking that sci-fi books aren't real literature?
No, definitely not. Sci-fi books are universally terrible. I've never been. I mean, I'm a complete geek, and I love sci-fi films. Although I have to confess that I probably aren't enough of a sci-fi film buff to know what is you're actually allowed to call sci-fi, because apparently Star Wars isn't sci-fi. So
Oh,
there are very
right.
particular rules about what sci-fi is and what sci-fi isn't. But unfortunately, I think if you stick to those rules, then you do end up just reading Asimov, which is just the most tedious nonsense. And I worry, especially in the literature, that the problem with it is, there's got to be like 9 or 10 books in a series, and it's like, just write one book. And it's like Frank Herbert's Dune, brilliant, great book, and there's like 9 more. And a mutual friend of ours told me, like, oh yeah, once you get past book 5, it'll start getting good again. So I tried, and like, don't get good again.
They're not mucking about either, though. Those books, are they? They're about this fat.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
small words as well.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think sci-fi films are so much. I think sci-fi movies have come from a different route. They've come from a sort of filmmakers. It's a great challenge, to be able to make a sci-fi movie, and its history goes back so far. Metropolis and things like that. Just to see what you can do. And because it's all about effects, and it's a fantasy world, and sci-fi can be extremely visual. So
And kind of less so in this case. I mean, they're not to say that the film isn't visually beautiful, which I do think it is,
yes.
but it's $5 million is not a lot of money to make a film that's set on the moon and looks like it's set on the moon.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what works really well in terms of keeping the budget down is the whole used future thing. Making everything look a bit tatty, making it look like this is where he goes to work. It's not, "Ooh, we're on the moon." It's, "Oh, we're stuck on the moon." And that can keep it nice and cheap, because it just looks industrial and a bit dirty. And I like the used future look. I think is brilliant. Star Wars popularized it, but Silent Runnings is all that. And this film, Duncan Jones is quite happy to come out and say we wanted to make a film that was like Silent Runnings.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's a massive influence, isn't it? It's not only Silent Runnings. The other films quoted Alien, which is they had the same set designer as Alien.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense in terms of it just being like a place. Alien looks very industrial. It looks like people are just off to work, rather than Star Wars, which has its own thing.
Yeah, everything looks. This is as cheap as we could. This is as cheap as we can keep you alive on the moon.
Yeah. And everywhere's got post-it notes stuck to it and stuff. It just looks like someone's workplace. It looks like a workplace that's gradually evolved, like your own workstations always do, rather than the set design in that respect is excellent, I think.
Yeah. Outlander is another film quoted for the direct influence. I've not seen that. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that either.
No. So it's Sean Connery in space.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he does well in space. Okay. What else has he been in space? No. What I'm thinking of is Zardoz.
Oh, I thought you were thinking of Moonraker. Which has actually got a very old the other Bond.
Yeah, it's Rog, isn't it?
Rog, yeah.
Moonraker.
It's a terrible movie.
Moonraker is a hilarious film.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
When I was little, absolutely, it was like, James Bond is on. Oh, I hope it's Moonraker. It's Moonraker. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So back to the film at hand.
Yeah.
Silent Runnings, Alien, that sort of late 70s, early 80s sci-fi films is the look he was going for and achieved really, really well, I think. Can
I just say one more thing about the look?
Yeah.
It looks like when the inside of the ship in Wall-E, only dirty.
Yeah.
And it's got the computer hanging from the ceiling and moves around on a track from the ceiling, like in Wall-E. And the big sort of stenciled bulkheads and all that sort of thing. Only obviously Wally's really clean, but yeah, I thought it looked a bit like that. And I thought it, and especially with Gertie looking just like, I can't remember the name of the autopilot thing in Wall-E. That's the, like, what do you call a boat steering wheel? Yeah.
No, you just erased it from my brain as well.
Yeah, sorry about that. But it looks like,
Isn't it just called the ship's wheel?
yeah, it could very well be. I'm probably looking for a word which doesn't exist. That's why I'm struggling so hard to find it. Yeah, and that the way that dangles from the ceiling and moves around on like a track from the ceiling, and I thought, God, that looks so much like that I think I better look up when each was released to see whether someone's stolen it from
Who
someone
nicked
else.
it from who?
Well, Wall-E's 2008 and Moon's 2009, so I don't think there's the opportunity for either of them to have stolen it off the other one. I mean, particularly Wall-E probably took about 10 years to make, didn't it?
Yeah.
Those films take a long time to make. Yeah, so and I would be amazed if Moon was nicked from Wall-E.
Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of there's loads of things in the film that are sort of unashamed homages. You see, like there's a lot of similarities to a lot of other films, but it's not at all. Doesn't feel at all stolen. It feels like it fits really well, and it's not. I think it goes a long way to the to your overall immersion in the film. Is that we kind of understand this language, don't we? Because of films like Alien and Silent Runnings and 2001 and the things about isolation and work. I'm just at work. I just happen to be in space.
Yeah,
boring.
Yeah, and you can't ignore how the similarities between it and 2001. With Hal and Gertie, and there's always going to be obvious parallels between the two. But yeah, I thought it looked great.
Yeah, well,
especially given how little it cost.
Yeah, one more thing about the set. Duncan Jones did a screening at NASA at the request of one of the professors, I think there, and in the Q&A afterwards, he was talking about the set and saying that that he imagined, because he was talking about like how boxy it is and how you step over things, and there's it's just like it's built as a container, like that's obviously clunked next to each other, and
it's modular. It seems.
And very concrete-y. And he was saying how he was imagining that robots went there without the raw materials and then made it out of moon rock and moon dust.
Right. Okay.
And then a lady pops up and says, "Oh, actually, yeah, that's what my team's doing. We're inventing the moon rock concrete. That's what we're working on."
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. Another one on Used Future. That they had to do it for Apollo 13 because when they the film, not the actual thing, when they made the Saturn V rocket. They were looking at it and everyone was saying, "Oh, it looks too clean." Because we're so used to Used Future being, it's such a common thing in sci-fi these days.
So what is Used Future exactly?
It just all looks a bit tatty. Instead of being that shiny spaceship thing, it's the tatty spaceship thing.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So they had to make the Saturn V, to make it look right on film, they had to make the Saturn V rocket that took Apollo 13 into space. They had to make it look dirty and old. But the real one wasn't dirty enough.
No, they just made it. It wasn't knocking around in someone's shed for 5 years.
Yeah. It was a brand new space rocket that they fired off into space. It didn't look right on film. And it's a bit like, that's the way films work. It's a bit like that scene in The Simpsons when they say they're painting a horse and they say, and someone says, "Why are you painting that horse?" And he says, "Cows don't look like cows on film, so you just have to paint a horse." And they say, "Well, what if you want a horse?" And he says, "Oh, we just staple a bunch of cats together." And it's just that funny magic of film. You can't have anything looking right. It has to be weird.
Yeah, because that's what we're used to. It's that you get that repetition, and then that's what we understand. So, in order to maintain that suspension of disbelief, we have to use the language that's already understood rather than force people to do something new.
Yeah.
Something that a nice quote that I saw from Duncan about setting it on the moon was. I'll just read it out. For me, the moon has this weird mythic nature to it. There's still a mystery to it. As a location, it bridges the gap between science fiction and science fact. We, humankind, have been there. It's something so close and so plausible, yet at the same time, we don't really know that much about it. And I think that's nice, you know. That's and on top of that, I started reading about this concept of hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi. Do you know about this?
I think so. Like the plausibility of it, or
like the soft sci-fi is the fantasy stuff, and I don't think I'll admit to you, I just read a little bit about it and thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll ask Jim if he knows about that, rather than I've got all in my notes about it. I think it's not so much that there's two separate schools. This is hard and this is soft. But it's more of a spectrum.
Like the Kinsey scale.
Yeah, the what?
The Kinsey scale.
Of what's that then?
That's it's straight at one end and gay on the other.
Oh, right. What's that from?
A doctor called Dr. Kinsey invented it in the 50s. They made a film about it called Kinsey.
Hey.
Starring what's his name from Taken? Really? Is that what he's going to be from now on? What's his name from Taken?
He's Taken.
Liam Neeson from like millions of much better films than Taken.
Yeah. But then he did Taken, and then that's it.
Well,
you've got to be a hard man from now on. Yeah. That's it.
It had some hilariously quotable lines, though. He had a very specific set of skills.
Yeah. I was at I was visiting someone's office a few weeks ago, and in their coffee area, they had a picture of Liam Neeson on the phone, and it said, "If you put coffee granules in the sugar, I will find you and I will kill you." Let's get into the film.
Yeah. So there's been some tangents.
Yeah.
Let's get into the film.
I can deal with it.
I really got into the film.
Yeah, me too. I do really, really like this film. So one of these times we're gonna have to do a film that we dislike.
Yeah.
Just to even things up.
Yeah. Seen it once, several years ago. Remembered it was brilliant, but kind of misremembered the structure of the film. So I think in my head it became a twist, but it's not. It's what the film's about.
Yes. Now, right. Okay. This is really interesting because this is it's at least the third time that I've watched this film, and the second time that I can't remember why I watched it a second time, but I was quite apprehensive about watching it for a second time. I thought, now I'm not going to appreciate the twist, the fact that you basically think you're watching a story about someone's mental collapse, but instead you're watching a film about cloning and there's loads of different things. I think what would be good for this podcast, I think, if we talk about the film in general and then try and come back at the end and then try and decide what we think, see if we can come to a consensus about what we think the film's about.
Yeah.
The establishing shots, we start off. We start the film with like the infomercial, the advert about that sets us up for this is the world that we're talking about. This is the world that we inhabit. There's been a massive change. There's this thing, helium-3. And I really like this this setup being. This is in the credits. Everything is explained in it's not ingenious or anything, but it's very succinct. And it works really, really well.
Yeah, it's been done in loads of movies, and to me it's almost an homage to Starship Troopers, RoboCop.
Oh yeah. The Verhoeven loves it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and it works, and it just gets the world building out of the way. Just done. There's your world done.
Yeah, is it completely succinct? One of the other things I really liked about the establishing shots of the film is that everyone who's in the film is credited up front.
Yeah.
Like, as if to say, there's gonna be a film now, and all these people are in it.
Like the old days.
Yeah. And then also, that do you think that's kind of do you think that's deliberate, that they deliberately did that because there's basically one person in it?
I can't believe that there's 10 people in this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what? It's like, it feels like there's about 3. How did they manage to get 10 in?
Well, who are the 10? You got the 2 people in the office.
Yeah. Matt Berry.
Yeah. Matt Berry.
Love that Matt Berry's in this film. I love Matt Berry so much. He's so brilliant. And his wife and daughter. So that's
daughter 4. Twice.
Yeah, his daughter twice. That's 5. Him. I don't know. I'm sure I counted 10 though. I'm sure I did. Kevin Spacey. And I think someone is credited as being his clone.
Oh right.
So I assume that in shots where you can't see his head, it's that guy. It might be 8. I thought it was 10, but it might be 8. It's not many, but it seems like it doesn't seem like that many. It seems like you could have got that down to about. You could have had a few more disembodied voices and got it down to about 3.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. I think that I think it's important that the names are up there because going back to what we were saying earlier about you watch it the first time you watch it, you think it's a film about isolation and this guy cracking up until it then actually becomes a film about clones or about about something else. It's sort of a changing moment in the during Act 2 where it sort of changes around, and there isn't really a click moment or there's loads of click moments that I think that's poignant. That's an important thing. So it's not like here's the film and Bruce Willis is a ghost. There's little hints and there's little tips, and I think that's what you get when you watch it. What I got when I watched it the second time was just like, of course he is, of course. Well, because he's a clone and he has sussed it out and this one hasn't, then that's it's a completely different way of watching the film.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Can you think of any? Can you think of any can you remember the first time you watched the film where the click point was, where you thought, oh no, it's real. The clones are real. It's not him. Is that how you watched the film first of all?
Yeah, it's hard for me to remember because somehow my mind has been polluted by, is it Oblivion?
Oblivion. Is that Tom Cruise?
Yeah. Which
it was Jim. You made it 20 minutes into the podcast before you mentioned Tom Cruise.
I'm sure I didn't mention him in the last couple either. Oh no. God, yeah, I do talk about him a lot. But he's, God, that's ruined it because that kind of recreated in my head this idea, because exactly the same thing happens in that film, except it's a twist in that film. It's much further into the film. And so I'd kind of invented in my head that we discover the clones quite late on. So I don't know what I thought happened in the first half of the movie other than him just sitting around like whittling things. But yeah, it felt like that all happened a bit later in the movie for me. But maybe that's just because, because I had no clue about it at all at first when I was watching the film and the first time round. I think I got very confused by it, and it was so unclear whether it was part of his, because he's obviously going mad up there on his own, and so it was difficult to know whether it was a sign of his madness or not. I assume that sort of by the time of the fight, um, then that's when you really, these are two people, and we're really beginning to understand that they're the same person, and it's not madness, and something incredibly amoral is going on.
Yeah, you picking the fight, I think, is a good thing for me. I think this time watching it through, I was thinking because I guess this is third time I've watched him. So the first time I was just like absorb it, enjoy it. Thinking about how this guy's cracking up. Oh no, he's having all these hallucinations.
Yeah.
He's talking to himself because he's so lonely. He's completely lost his marbles. This is terrible for him. I wonder where this is going. And then the second time, it's like, oh, that's when, of course, that's exactly what that guy would say, and then how he would respond, because he thinks he's gone mad and he's just trying to go with his madness because he thinks I'll just be mad for 2 weeks and then I can go home.
Yeah.
And then this time I was watching it more on the position of, I think that's when he realizes, and I think that the fight, when that explodes up, that's when, old Sam.
Yeah.
That's when I think he starts to accept and realise that, no, I'm not cracking up. That's a real clone. I'm also a clone. I'm not the real Sam Bell, and here is my clone. I'm also a clone because I don't remember building the first half of this.
Yeah.
And in fact, I only remember building that bit, and that's a real key point of like, oh. But I still don't think, watching it the first time, that I'd grasped it at that point. I think I still thought of that as him being nothing. Sam. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. And new Sam being a hallucination still.
Yeah.
Even during the fight.
Yeah. I think so. Maybe. I mean, I can't remember. It
certainly
long time ago
sets you up to have an ambiguity about whether he's real or not, because he's hallucinating other things as well, and and things are contriving to make it seem like he's hallucinating in order to protect the status quo. So
what do you think about the hallucination that he has right at the beginning of the film, where he actually crashes the rover because he's having this hallucination?
Yeah.
So what do you think that hallucination was?
What, in hindsight, once you've seen the whole movie?
Yeah. Or at the time, either or.
I mean, at the time, you think it's just because he's going balmy because he's been on his own for 3 years. No, that's the thing. I think when I first started seeing the movie, because I knew nothing about the movie when I started watching it, when I first watched it, and I thought it was going to be about the dangers of solitude and the effect that solitude can have on your psyche. And so I just assumed it was that. I mean, later on, it's because there's they've built obsolescence into the clones. They only last 3 years, and it's just his mind falling to pieces because they built that in. They make the clones to last 3 years, and then they put a new clone out.
Right. So here's an interesting thing. I never thought about building that into clones. I just thought that might be, that's as long as they last.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I guess I never really made a decision either way as to whether they intentionally did that. I can see reasons for doing it intentionally. Obviously, the reasons not to, but they'll get wear and tear, and why would you bother making them?
Well, they would go mad, wouldn't they? 3 years must be like the absolute maximum, and then at 3 years, So I think you're right. I think they would.
In my head, there's years of them trying, and that didn't work, and they've perfected that. With the amount of money that's been spent on the base, and the big stack of clones that they discover, they obviously have perfected a technique. The only thing that I think's a shame is that I think it would have been nice if it had turned out that it had been on a continuous cycle for like 1,000 years or something. That there's just been clone after clone after clone, and children had been dead for hundreds of years or something like that. I thought that would have been an interesting thing, but then that would have ruined the idea of the scene where he meets his daughter and she's grown up. I just thought it would have been interesting, maybe if she'd have been 50 or something, that would have been kind of cool to give you like an idea of, because they've only must have been through 4 or 5 cycles if she's
I think
16,
I think like when he's looking at the logs, it doesn't look like there's he's got one screen of video logs that he's going through.
Yeah. But I mean, not to suggest that he didn't do it right. He did do it right. I just thought that would have been an interesting way of doing it, to give it some real, the impact of being like, oh, I'm like the 60th clone. This has been going on for 180 years. I think that would have been a big impact. But it would have stolen away, because then the daughter's got to still be living with the dad, so that he gets that confirmation that he's definitely not number one.
Yeah.
Number one's still alive, and he's down, and
probably complicit.
Yeah, and that's why Duncan Jones writes films and I don't. Is that he gets to, the fact that Sam number one is still alive, I think has a lot more impact than if he'd been long dead. I think the existence and of the original Sam is quite heartbreaking, really. That's a thing which really hits home. That's my daughter, but I can't go and see her or anything because, well, obviously, apart from the fact that I'm on the moon, she's got her dad.
Yeah.
The real me, the real one.
Yeah, and also it raises the question of, am I complicit in this? Did I set this up? Did I agree to this?
Yeah.
Was I bought to have, was I paid sufficient money to be cloned and then imprison myself almost on the moon to live out terrible existence again and again and again?
Am I my jailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is an awful thought.
Oh, it's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I think is really nice, because that is, you're kind of saved from that until right at the end of the film, and that moment where he's covering up the screen looking at Eve, and then when number one Sam speaks, that's you can tell that's so enormous that he can't process that at all, and just shuts it off. And I think that's that's so emotive and raises so many extra questions about about the true meaning of the film, I guess.
That scene with when he does phone back is when it all comes, the realization of it, because I think we're sort of, I like the way we drip fed it as it occurs to old Sam. Oh, there's a clone of me to replace me, and then it never occurred to him that he was a clone of Thingy to replace himself. And then the idea that there was never an original Sam never went to the moon, and all of these, the situation just gets worse and worse the more you think about it. You think, oh, there's a clone of me, that's not very nice, I've died, they've stuck a clone of me there. Oh, hang on a minute, I'm not even clone number one. Oh, hang on a minute, it's not even like the first guy came up and they've replaced him. He's obviously just supplied some cells, God. And it's probably totally him being, as you say, complicit in it.
Yeah, because he must be. Yeah.
And in terms of whether he's a hallucination or not, I think they play that up. New Sam, whether he's a hallucination or not, I think they play that up quite well by him being like almost a better version of Sam, like an idea of Sam that Sam might have of himself in his head. It almost reminded me of, have you seen Youth in Revolt? Yeah, Michael Cera's.
Yeah.
imaginary version of himself. You know, he's quite aloof, and so new Sam is quite aloof and clearly in a much better place in terms of his mental state and his physical state, because he hasn't had the torture of 3 years of loneliness, and he's not falling to pieces because he physically wasn't built to last more than 3 years anyway.
But something else that's you know, around this theme, this area as well, is that old Sam has gone through 3 years of introspection, and you know, his relationship breakdown before he went to the moon that he remembers, and the exchange of video messages with his wife, that seems like it, you know, there's a chance, you know, he's that hope is maintained, but he's had a lot of time to think all those things through, and you know, they have that conversation like after the fight of like, you know, you got some aggression issues, you know, there's that point where he says, I know what I've forgotten his wife's name now.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
move on.
I know what she was talking about when she was saying these things about me, because that's how you are.
Yeah.
And then he's had that 3 years of reflection to basically become a better person, to emotionally, but at the expense of his mental health and now physical health as he just deteriorates.
Yeah. There's a episode of Red Dwarf where they fire up a new hologram of Rimmer. So there's 2 holograms of Rimmer. It works in very much the same way, because in one of them, Rimmer's been alive and with Lister. The new Rimmer thinks that the old Rimmer is soft because he's had a year of being softened, and you definitely get that. Sorry, I know comparing this with an episode of Red Dwarf is absurd, but it's a similar sort of thing, you know. The new Rimmer and new Sam and old Sam both have contempt for each other, because one of them thinks that one's got soft over 3 years, and the other one thinks that, God, I've grown so much.
I can't believe that was me, Barry Bethel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Costume is big as well. Just to touch on, like, there's a lot of meaning, I think, in the costume throughout the film. You know, like, there's when the film opens, you've got dishevelled 3-year-old Sam wearing, you know, knackered clothes. Can't be bothered. What's the point? And, you know, what's the point? Even if, you know, Gertie's going to wash his clothes, what's the point? I just wear them. No one cares.
Yeah.
So this is what I look like. I've got a beard and I just don't care. And
yeah.
And then you know, and even like the space suits is dirty. You know, everything's rubbish.
There's coffee all over Gertie.
Yeah.
Coffee all over it. Yeah.
Yeah. And a new Sam, it's all like completely pristine and like, you know, he's working out. He's doing his, you know, ironing his shirts. He's making the effort.
Yeah.
And
I think that's another sort of way to demonstrate the level of depression that old Sam is feeling.
Incidentally, did you notice? Did you notice? I say this like I noticed, but of course I didn't. What's on the yellow T-shirt that Sam's wearing in the old Sam is wearing in the first scene when he's running on the treadmill, and also that is wrapped up in cellophane next to Sam 3 when they pull out Sam 3.
Yeah. Remind me of it.
It says, "Wake me when it's quitting time."
Yeah, I like that. There's little things like that. When his alarm clock goes off, it's The One and Only by Chesney Hill.
Yeah. Weirdly, Duncan Jones must have a thing about that. It must be a thing, because in Source Code, have you seen Source Code?
I haven't yet. No.
All right.
Is it good?
No. Well, it's not awful, but I've seen it twice, both
Okay.
times on telly. Just like, oh yeah, I'll watch this, rather than
Yeah.
not watch something. But I wouldn't. I don't think I'd rent it.
No, I've seen the what it's about, and it just didn't grab me. Just
Yeah,
didn't make me think. Oh yeah, I'll watch that.
yeah. It's just a bit. It's a little bit more rom-com than I'd like.
Right.
But back to current issues. The someone's ringtone in the lady who's the I don't know, the anchor character, I guess, the narration character, if you like, of Source Code. That's her ringtone.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's funny. He's obviously going for that sort of Easter eggs in the universe thing, like Pixar.
Yeah, yeah. The but I did, like, when I heard it, I was just like, Chesney. Same as on Risky Business when Phil Collins came on. When these things happen to you, I look around for someone to like say, but of course, I'm there on my own, or I've got the 2-month-old baby next to me, and he doesn't even know who Chesney Hawkes is.
He hasn't got it
He's
yet.
2 months old.
The things he's missed.
Yeah. The costumes as well. Like that, there was a lot of homage there with to Silent Runnings. They had like that was really, really similar to the flight suit that they're wearing all the time. I imagine completely unnecessarily. Like why would you be wearing a flight suit if?
Why would you even wear clothes? You're there on your own.
Yeah, it's complete. Yeah. Well, I think I might. Gertie might see me.
You don't want to get any trapped on any of those funny bulkheads either, do you?
No, you don't. Quite right. Safety first, Jim. Safety first.
Indeed. Indeed.
But yeah, I really liked the jumpsuits. I kind of wanted one. Do you know what I mean? With the mission patches on. Yeah. I've been to the moon just the once.
Yeah, that's the one. It's about going to the moon.
Just scanning my notes.
Right.
Yeah, Gertie as a in the film. What do you see Gertie as?
Well, I don't know. I like it because it being the obvious parallels with Hal.
A bit nicer than Hal, though.
Yeah, and I think that's. I think making Gertie like Hal, and to remind you, with the, what are you doing, Dave? That they're very sort of flat, emotionless voice. I think it's clever because you're immediately suspicious of Gertie because of you know about the films before and how computers are meant to act. And I kind of liked how it was almost the reason why things ended up the way they were is almost because there's a sort of unseen glitch in Gertie's programming where Gertie's meant to look after Sam. And the way that programming manifests itself, the AI in it, has worked out that the best way to look after Sam is to not tell Mission Control about the fact that there's two of them and they've worked it all out, and to become complicit in the plot that they start to build. And I think that's done. I think it's done well, and they don't hammer that home. They don't feel like they have to explain why Gertie's helping them, even though it doesn't make a vast amount of sense to, because I don't think it's that too. All they do is just Gertie says things like, I'm here to help you, Sam, and stuff, just to remind you of, oh yeah, I suppose that is, they've programmed you so that that's the most important thing, because they didn't think that there would be a situation like this where you helping Sam and trying to keep Sam alive actually ends up being you're going to be complicit in the bringing down of
Well,
our.
maybe it's more than complicit. Maybe it's even instigated because, like, if you think about it, then the fact that Gertie woke another clone while there was still one unaccounted for outside the base, that wouldn't be a good idea.
No,
because you're opening yourself up to loads of risks. So maybe Gertie then is is trying to look after Sam number. Whatever number, the first Sam, old Sam,
yeah, by getting new Sam to go and rescue
exactly
him.
Because Gertie knows that if she wakes up new Sam, chances are new Sam's going to want to go outside.
Yeah.
Whereas, if your primary function is to not to look after Sam, but to maintain the illusion that Sam is the only Sam. Then that would waking up one when there was still another one not vaporized. That would be completely contrary.
But by the same token, I think that I read it as Gertie got in contact with Matt Berry, and he said, and the plan was, we need a new Sam to get things working. So, and there's obviously a waking up period for a Sam, so we need to get one up and running. And this whole idea of this rescue mission that's coming to clean everything up, they're there to kill old Sam. They're not there to clear up the thing. They're there to go and dispatch him. And so I think it's I took it as being slightly more malignant than, they were, that the new Sam was woken up just from base, from the Earth. They said, right, this is the plan, this is what's going to happen, because they just thought, we'll get up there, we'll kill Sam, and that would be that. I don't know, either one could be right.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of things about this film that, that could be taken either way, and I don't think that there's I don't think it encourages or deserves that level of analysis. I think, like, if you try to drill down into it, all you're going to do is ruin the film. If you try and work out, well, actually that would be daft if this. Well, surely they would want to do this and that. If you start doing things like that, then you lose it, and that. But you could do that to any film at all. Yeah,
it's gripping enough that it keeps you. I mean, that's what willing suspension of disbelief is all about, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
You need to. There's only a certain amount you can get away with, and a talented filmmaker can get away with quite a lot and keep you not guessing, keep you just knowing what's enjoying the film, and it's so interesting to see the relationship between the two Sams develop and everything. That why would you care about the details? Details are unimportant. What's fascinating is the way that the two Sams come to the realization of what's happened, and them going from resenting each other to working together for sort of common good of them and all the other Sams. And
yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that we can't forget about this third character as well. That Gertie is, she's very he's very mothering.
I keep saying she as well.
Yeah, but I think that's because, and like all of the, completely contrary to other machine intelligence from the the homage films. You've got thinking about Alien, where it's completely calculating yet overtly very, very human, and HAL is completely machine-like, but then there's developed the sentience, and then it's just really sinister.
Yeah.
Whereas Gertie is very mothering the whole time. Every crisis is, do you want some food? do you want? Oh, I can tell you're a bit upset. Do you want some hot sauce for your beans? You know that, and I really love that character development of a machine
Yeah.
through very very simple things.
That's really interesting that I keep nearly saying she as well, and
Because
and
of
it's
the
not because
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
because he's got a girl's name. It's because it's the mum. Yeah,
yeah. Well, that Gertie, you know, we assume that's like an acronym or something, but
yeah,
then why has Gertie got a man's voice?
yeah.
So
Well, I mean, the reason why Goatley's got a man's voice is so that you think about how. But
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess.
in the world, why has Gertie got a man's voice? And why didn't they think of a if the, you know, because all of the whenever you get an acronym that works out as someone's name, it's a backronym. They've come up with a name first and then worked out what it stands for. So why didn't they come up with Bertie
Yeah,
and then work it back from there?
exactly. So we've got to imagine that these things they're all intentional things. They're all cues for us to understand the dynamics and the relationship between these three characters, which works really really well. I've never heard anyone. Yeah, I think the extent that we've just had a more of a pick over elements of the film that maybe are one way, maybe are the other way. I've never heard or read anything about people going overboard with that, and I think that's that's good, and I think that's marked because you have all this other stuff that's more important, more interesting to talk about.
Yeah, but it's funny. They're a family, aren't they? There's a mum and two brothers, and the two brothers fight, but they end
Yeah,
up loving each other, and it's really interesting.
and they will come good. They club together and overcome odds in the end, and
Yeah,
make good decisions for the benefit of all. And
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of as good a place as any to leave it. Have you got any other burning issues that you wanted to talk about?
yeah. One of the things that I was super impressed with, and it only dawned on me afterwards, was I never even occurred to me in the fight scene that he's fighting himself, and what a clever bit of filmmaking that is,
Mm.
because it was so well done. So much of that, we haven't. It was all so well done. The two clones, the actor playing two people. It's a real testament to that filmmaker that we never even discussed it.
Yeah,
Because it's just so believable, and making them fight and the brutality of the fight scene, and it was impeccably done, because at no point did I ever think, well, that's clever, which is because it was so clever
yeah.
that I never stepped away from it and thought, oh yeah, it's the same actor fighting each other. They were just two different people to me. They were two characters. It was very, very well done.
What do you think the film is about in a sentence, in a phrase?
Oh God, I mean, it's about it's a deeply layered film, which is why it's so beautiful. But it's hard to get past the message of the morality of how people are treated by large corporations, governments, things like that. How our lives can be controlled, and how we can. Some people are treated as disposable. I think that's a strong message of it. It's an allegory to the working man going to work for 40 years and then dropping dead, and and there being a constant supply of people to fill our factories, and it's hard to avoid that, and the morality of it, and it's something that's been discussed at length. I mean, from the mills of northern England, and then the introduction of things like salt mill in Saltaire, where everyone lived in the same place, and it was seen as a really good thing because they were given a nice place to live and proper sanitation. But then work becomes so much part of their lives, and they all had to go to church on a Sunday, and there was no pubs in the town, and their lives ended up being so controlled. And I think and that's been continuing to a lesser and greater extent throughout since the Industrial Revolution. And I think it's just showing, as a dystopia, what could happen in the future, but just as an allegory for the morality of it. Maybe.
Yeah, I completely agree that I think if I was gonna sum it up, that's it. It's man's contempt for fellow man is really what it's about. Especially with talking about where the point at which we realised that we talked about earlier of no, Sam number one still exists and he's complicit. That I think is the most important thing. That it's an interesting story around and a great film because you can watch it 3 times in a row and pull different things out of it.
Yeah.
That's what makes it really great. But yeah, it's when it comes down to it, it's not really about isolation. It's not really about deteriorating mental health.
Yeah. Although as a study of those things, it's excellent.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by multi-layered. It's about those sort of things as well. And also, I think the isolation effect of it is, very much how we throw our work to a different place and forget about it. And then that gives us, as the general public, a way of sort of washing our hands of ignorance is bliss, and just in the same way that we've got huge factories in the Far East that have got nets up to stop people from committing suicide like we have in prisons. And because their lives are rotten, because all they do is work all day and they're being treated as commodities and totally disposable. And so I think that putting them on the dark side of the moon is like how we think about all of these Chinese guys that are making iPods for us and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We've got this lovely energy. We had a terrible crisis with energy, and the world was an awful place. But now the world is great because we've got helium-3 and fusion, and and everything is on the up. But the cost of that is something that we've been able to remove so far. To like you said, or like you're alluding to, the dark side of the moon. That's the furthest away thing that we could kind of think of, as still Earth-ish.
Yeah.
Which we live now with. We can't see those things. We don't want to be reminded of them. We don't want Sam 2 to come to Earth on his shuttle. And I think that's an important thing at the end of the film, where the final lines of the film are, the recoil to that with the DJ or the phone-in radio guy saying, "What's this going on? This can't be real. This needs to be dismissed. He's a nutter, or he's he's a lady."
I think what was important was that it wasn't a news broadcast, because it was a phone-in. It was obviously a member of the public, and so that shows you the backlash of how much we're all complicit in that kind of thing of shutting our eyes and ears to
and we're determined really to maintain that ignorance, and we will fight hard to get it, and that I think is the that's the important point of the final line of the film.
Yeah, lovely film.
Yeah, brilliant. Grand. Well, that's I loved that. That was really interesting for me. A great discussion, I thought. We'd love to hear what you thought of the film too, and of course our opinions of it. Join the conversation with us on Facebook or Twitter. Look us up. These are the films, or Twitter TATF podcast. You can email us as well, show@thesearethefilms.com. And don't forget to visit our website, thesearethefilms.com. There'll be clips, links mentioned in the show, and extra information as well. So all that's left for us to do is to ask Jim what film we'll be watching next time.
Well, next time we are going to be covering the Coen brothers' classic comedy, Raising Arizona. It's got Nick Cage and the wonderful Holly Hunter. A very funny film. A great introduction to the Coen brothers for me. It was a film that I watched when I was quite young, and I had no concept of the Coen brothers as a thing, and I just thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, me too. Love it. And I haven't seen it in a long, long time. I probably haven't seen it in 10 years, so I'm very much looking forward to watching it again. And I hope you all are too. Any thoughts on our choice, or if when you've watched it, do get in touch. All the usual places.
So until next time, it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from me. Froggy love Daddy.
Daddy love Froggy.